Okay, so something really important just went down. There's a guy named Danny Estulin. He's a Spanish blogger and researcher of New World Order kind of stuff. He was permitted to speak for about 14 minutes uninterrupted to EU Parliament about the nefarious plans of a certain faction. During the speech, he said that actually that Bilderberg had now begun to be, I wouldn't say infiltrated, because I believe that the factions which control these type of groups are purely a reflection of the collective desire and intent. And so, in my opinion, the Bilderberg group hasn't been infiltrated, but just has been allowed to contain more people in it who are working in the actual interests of humanity as opposed to their detriment and the interest of a small group of people. His talk was very interesting. It was filled with very many references to occult themes, saying that the mind was the key to immortality and how this is all a battle for the mind, which is the reason why I made this video, because he's not just some fringe conspiracy nut. He actually understood what he was saying. He actually understood that there was a benevolent faction which was working for the good of man. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if he wasn't a member of this benevolent faction. From what I understand, the top people in these Bilderberg and these Illuminati have been visited by the Ascended Masters, have been visited by the Great White Brotherhood, and they've been communicated to their options, and they've been told of the consequences of their actions. You know, what would be really interesting is if God decided to abrogate the fate of the fallen angels, if God decided that the fallen angels had served enough and decided to let them ascend with us. That would be very intriguing. That would be a best case win-win scenario. But still, there is this holdout of very nefarious forces. The reason, again, why I made this video is because it's so important. I've been watching this dynamic shift happening in the country and in the world, especially in places like UK. UK is the best place to look for this shift and how it's transpiring. There's a split in the world's elite now. There seems to be a group of elite that understands that they can't keep going against nature and going against humanity and going against God, and they want to, or maybe they've just been there the whole time and they haven't been that vocal. There's a group that want to, I believe, bring humanity into this era of connection, this era of cooperation, this era of transparency, this era of getting the little guy involved with running the ship. And there's another group that want to stay in the same neocon consolidation in the small group of people type setup. These are the Israelis. These are the American conservatives. Perhaps even the Islamic jihadis. I believe that the Islamic jihadis who are ultimately have their marching orders given to them by just one person, an imam. You know, I believe that these jihadist parties are also a member of the sinister conspiracy. Power is easily consolidated in Islam. Islam is a perfect way to consolidate power in hands of a small group of people. But that's getting off topic. So if you look at the world right now, it's divided into two camps, or three camps maybe. You have the camp of the original neocons, neoconservatives, people who want, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps they want a nefarious, like Daniel Estulin didn't even call it a one world government, which is very, very interesting. Because to actually take that step and to make all the governments one world and then to do it in a nefarious and shady way where people are not trusting it, it's not going to last. They know it's not going to last. They know it would never even begin. So what he postulated is that actually they want to create a one world Company Limited, which is, I think, much more closer to the truth, because they can do this covertly without having to go through any parliament or governments and cause a big stir. They can do it all silently and covertly. It began with Reaganomics back in the 80s, and all you American fucking morons who are falling into line with the conservative drumbeat right now, why don't you take your fucking little pea-brain heads out of the sand and look around for a second? Look back at 1984. Look back at a guy named Ronald Reagan. Look back at 2003. Look at a guy named George W. Bush. The conservatives haven't changed. You know, it just blows my mind that people, they still think that Obama is a member of this great sinister movement, yet how come that the same neocons that started everybody off on researching this great sinister movement because they were so sinister, how come the neocons still remain in this country and they're still giving Obama flack? Maybe could it be that Obama is a member of the ultra elites who want to actually empower humanity? Maybe Obama is the one who wants to empower them, and maybe the conservative is the one that's gonna take us right back into the old fascist system once they get power. You know, they want to deregulate the economy, and they want to consolidate power in the hands of a small group of people. It's been this way. You know, if you go back to the same free market economy, you're gonna get the same shit as we had when Bush was in power. Mass difference between wealthy and poor. You know, our industries were shipped all over the world, so that we were all made subservient. We all had to be taking these little gimpy service jobs. You know, it turned our country into a third world country. The conservatives and the Bushites, they turned our country into a third world country. Reagan, Bush, they turned us into a third world country. And now, so many Americans are screaming for the conservatives again, because the conservatives, in a certain way, have hijacked the truth movement for their own good, as they began doing right after Obama took office. You could see that with the likes of Glenn Beck talking about, you know, I just couldn't debunk these FEMA camps. I just couldn't debunk them. He's just putting on a clever ploy to get your trust. And so then, who is these nefarious neocons, and who is the one who wants to liberate you? Is it Obama or Glenn Beck? Use your head, people. So again, this was the reason for making this video, to illustrate that there are two factions at play right here, and the third, you know, the neutral faction of people who are just completely oblivious. So yeah, which side are you on? You have to be either on the side of progression towards a more fair, democratic, balanced, harmonious world, or degression towards a completely unregulated casino market where all of the American economy is shipped off overseas because, hey, free market, buddy. You know, that's just capitalism. So while you're sitting there bitching and complaining about how that the government is the problem for taking all your money, you should really think about how that the private companies over the last 10 years have completely transferred the wealth to China. Is that really, you know, the power of the free market? So this is so important. I mean, on top of making this video, I almost debated making a whole channel. I want to make like a whole channel just devoted to setting people straight and sending people to realize that there are two factions, not one faction, at least two factions, at the very least.